Patrick Mahomes is lazy and out of shape. That is the rumor coming out of Kansas City. Look, this is just absurd. We have these boomer reporters that don't know anything about football or fitness. Look, these are two of my favorite topics. Football, I've been lifting for 7 years. I'm pretty serious when it comes to lifting and nutrition and just general well-being knowledge, as well as football. And a lot of people that have never worked out before and also are just kind of spiteful haters will see any athlete and just be like, man, that's just lazy. He's looking a little thick or he's looking a little fat. And it's like, sometimes that is the case. You know, some professional athletes, I do think it is fair to question their conditioning or to question their weight. For example, Zion Williamson, who has had an injury history in the lower body, ankle, knee, hip, you know, with how heavy he is and all the landing, all the weight that's coming down with injuries, it's like, okay, you know, there's something here. Luka, who has been not as large as Zion, obviously, and these are NBA examples, but we'll get to some NFL. Luka, you know, he sometimes isn't always given max effort, and he is a little out of shape. So those are fair things. You know, when the play looks to be affected by weight and conditioning, Eddie Lacy, for example, great running back, gains 30 pounds, 40 pounds, and is getting tracked down by defensive linemen. So it's one thing if the extra fat is a bonus. You know, for some athletes, I'll give an example of Daniel Cormier, who was a UFC legend. He's a pretty short dude, but was fighting at heavyweight at 5'9", 5'10", with a short reach. That's just kind of his build, if that makes sense. You know, some guys, they're perfect physique for that sport, and it depends on the sport. You know, every physique's not going to look the same, and every guy is not going to... Some guys are better super skinny, some sports are better super skinny. It's pretty complex, but some guys, that is kind of a feature for them. Having a little bit of extra fat, they're better at their sport for whatever reason. And we see this picture of Patrick Mahomes, and some people are like, man, he doesn't look super lean. He doesn't have a bicep vein. He doesn't have abs. First thing I'd like to point out, and this is pretty big in the fitness industry, is you'll see people in good downlighting who have shaved their stomach, who have a good tan, who are flexing, who have a pump, who had just got done with their cut. Every single box is checked to look as good as possible. They take the perfect picture, they take 100 pictures, they pick the best one, and then they even edit it from there. So when you see these fitness professionals or these pro athletes, you're like, wow, is that what the normal shape looks like for a quarterback? And not really. Look, there are some guys like Jalen Hurts or etc., you know, these guys that really take lifting serious, and that is what they look like. There is no deception. Some of these guys are legitimately jacked and lean in the offseason and year-round. But Patrick Mahomes, he is a guy who has kind of a thicker midsection, and is not super lean. He's not fat. I'd say he's probably 20 to 22% body fat, which is, you know, slightly on the unhealthy side. You know, you're not going to die immediately from diabetes, but if you stay at that heavy weight, you know, he's 6'2", probably 230. If you stay at that way for your whole life, you probably will lose a couple years and will have a lower quality of life at the end. But it's nothing crazy. And with the fact that he is an NFL quarterback, we do have to factor in that you don't want to be in quote-unquote perfect shape. Having body fat is kind of important for a position where you're going to be hit in a defensive position 5 to 10 times per game. And you're also going to be running the football occasionally, and that's different because you're bracing for the hit. But you're going to be taking shots to the midsection with no protection. I don't think it's crazy to start out. And, you know, guys, they will lose weight throughout the season. I think that's another important thing, is we see guys in the offseason, NFL and NBA, and guys are going to lose weight throughout the season. You know, you're doing a lot of cardio. You aren't going to be doing all that much lifting, so you're probably going to lose some muscle as well. Preferably minimal. But to say something like this is out of shape, or he's lazy, or he's eating too much fast food, I just think that's far off the mark. I think this is a pretty standard offseason physique. He'll probably lose 5 to 8 pounds, and then throughout the season he'll probably lose another 5 to 8 pounds. But I don't think by any means this is hindering his play. I think to make that claim, you would have to see him not as mobile, not able to make the same rotational throws due to less mobility because he's fat. Until I see that, I'm pretty skeptical that this quote-unquote dad bod is going to be a hindrance to his play.